so that it turns yellow, left click and drag up to where this plane actually rests on top of the major grid line again, just like the other one. And once we're satisfied with the placement, which is kind of hard to do this, right there, let go of it and click where it says orthographic up here to change back into the perspective viewport. And you'll notice once again it's at the center of our origin here, which is no good for our modeling purposes. If we left it there, we would be creating a model right through the center of the plane, which is not what we want. So while the plane is still highlighted with the move manipulator on, you can tell that by the arrow points, not the balls. Go ahead and move your mouse over the green arrow so that it turns yellow, left click, and then you're going to want to drag to the left. Now, you're wanting this to appear approximately one small grid box past where the edge of the front plane would be, which is about right there. Okay, now that you can tell how far apart these two things are, if you hold down the Alt key and left mouse button again so you can rotate around, you can tell that this would probably be a good setup to go ahead and do our modeling. I'm probably gonna bring the front view plane back up one minor grid box so that they're just a little bit closer to each other. Right now they're two grid boxes apart. So go ahead and click anywhere else besides the side view plane that we were on, which unhighlights it, and you can see the grids on the plane, which lets you know it's not selected. And go ahead and click back on the front grid plane like this, and when you get the move manipulator to come up again, you're going to want to highlight the green arrow again, left click and drag toward the front, just so it comes up one small box compared to where it was previously. And you want it resting right on that line, kind of like that. This way, when you're looking at it from the side view or the front view, in the 3D view is what these planes are for mainly, you'll be able to actually model right here at the origin, and it will come out correctly no matter which way you look at it. And the whole purpose of creating these planes, instead of using the default background images in the various, orthographic views like front or side, is because we're going to do the majority of our modeling in the future tutorials in the 3D perspective mode. Now every now and then I'll switch to the front or the side view to line things up, but to really get a good look at your model while you're tweaking and adding in new polygons and stuff, you need to be in the 3D perspective view to do this. So, okay, one last thing that we need to do while we still have the front plane selected, you're going to want to click at the icons at the top of the visual toolbar. You're going to click the next cube over from the gray one, and if you hold your mouse over it, it should, but it's not, it should give us a mesh flyover telling us that this is the mesh toolbar. You click on that to highlight it, and you'll see in here various options on the buttons. One of them says freeze select. So you're going to want to make sure that your plane is highlighted red by clicking back on the front plane. And once you see the red grid lines on the plane itself, then you click where it says freeze select, and you'll notice the red goes away. This makes it so that we cannot click and accidentally select this object again, which is not what we want while we're going to begin modeling, in the future on the head and the rest of the character. Because if we accidentally move the planes, then we have to go through all this again of adjusting it and stuff. So the next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and switch back to the object mode, deselect the front plane, and click on the side view plane so that it's highlighted with the arrows. Then click back on the mesh icon again, which is right next to the gray one that we were just on for object, and make sure we click back on the side view plane so that it is selected in red with the arrows. And again, we're going to click freeze select, which takes away the red and the arrows, letting us know that we cannot accidentally select it and mess up our scene. Okay, at this point, this basically, now you see how it's still selected when we switch back to object. Click off of it, and you'll notice we can no longer select these objects. Now we rotate around and you can tell that this is the setup that we need. It's basically the default setup for all of the various modeling projects and tutorials that we're going to be doing in the future, which the next tutorial will be starting on the head. We'll be starting with that because that's basically the hardest part of any character is the head. So I like to start there because once you get it done, then the rest of the body is a snap and you can just finish the character like that. Okay, once you get to this and you're satisfied with your plane placement and everything, the only thing left to do is to save the scene that you have, and I like to save it as a default reference plane setup. And I like to make a few backup copies of it because in the future then, any other projects that you do, even the ones with this tutorial or other ones, you can always load up this original scene and then just change the images associated with these planes, adjust them a little bit, and you're done, instead of having to go through the whole process of setting up a new scene and, you know, all that stuff. So we'll go to File, and where it says Save Scene As, we're going to click that, and I'm going to go back, find the folder wherever you want to save it. You can name it Tutorial or whatever, and I'm already in. This is the second hillbilly character we created, and I'm going to go to where it says Scratch, and the name that I'm going to call this is Hillbilly 02 Start 01. Actually, I'm going to change that. We're going to call this VW Reference Plane Start. VW Reference Plane Start. And I like to put a 01 at the end. That way you can just use the save incrementally in the future and it will go up with the various revisions that you do to it each time. And then click Save. And like I told you, we need to create at least 1 or 2 backups of this. And the simplest way to do that is to go to File and go to where it says Save Scene Incrementally. Click that, and you'll notice up here at the top of the program, the name changes at the end of it. Instead of 01, it's now 02, and I'm going to go ahead and do that a couple of more times. Okay, now we're up to 5, 6. Okay, so now when we begin the next tutorial next time, we'll start off with probably the VW reference plane Start 06, and we'll use that to begin our polygon modeling of the character head. That's it for this tutorial. This has been Storm on the Polycount forums. If you're keeping track of the VoidWorld forums over there, you'll know that Kuhn or Estonia is releasing new updates daily, so keep track of that with the various bugs and provide feedback to him, because he is making major changes all the time to the program, and that's the only way that it's going to get better. And this program works for all users of different modeling packages such as Silo, 3D Studio Max, Soft Image. Anything that you come from, you can come into VoidWorld, and if they don't already have a default hotkey setup for your modeling package you're familiar with, it's configurable. You can actually go in and change the hotkeys and the mouse combinations, and you can even change the menu layouts. I mean, as you can tell, this is not the default setup that you get when you originally install VoidWorld. And the way that I did this is I just dragged all of the other windows over top of the visual tools over here and let go when I was in the center of it with the little thing that turns blue, and it expands into a tab. And I did that with each toolbar until I was satisfied with the position and the size of it to where I could still kind of read the tabs, but it wasn't so wide that it was taking up the screen and I couldn't model anymore. Now, another thing you can do when you're modeling, I'll show you one more quick tip to do, is F6 allows it automatically maximize where you should be with the viewport that you're currently in, and it moves it to the center of the viewport so that you can do your model in there and you have plenty of room to see everything and plenty of room to work. The other key that comes in real handy is the F5 key, because while you're modeling, if you learn all the hotkeys and the mouse key combinations, you can actually hit F5 and it goes into full screen mode, which takes away everything so that you have much more area to work with while you're modeling. But again, you don't want to do that unless you are familiar with all the hotkeys and stuff. But if you accidentally do it, another way you can get back is by clicking the F key again, and it brings back your tab bar. Another quick hotkey that you should know that'll come in handy if you like working in a 4 viewport setup instead of 1 is the spacebar. The spacebar minimizes the viewport that you're in and brings it back to the 4 view or whatever default viewport setup that you selected. And whatever viewport you have highlighted, when you click the spacebar again, will once again become the major viewport that's maximized. So like if I click in front orthographic, right, and hit the spacebar, that becomes the full screen size. Now once again, I'll click the spacebar and click back into custom perspective, click the spacebar, and there I am. Okay, that concludes our tutorial for today, and have a good time with it. Play with the other things I can tell you about VoidWorld is to get in here and play around with things. Mouse over a lot of things and look for the hotkeys that pop up and tells you what they do, and just play with it. Put in some different boxes and whatnot, and practice with the hotkeys. I would suggest printing those off. You can go into Edit, Customize Tools, give it a minute here. I got a bunch of things running. When this screen comes up, there's a new option to export to text file. So you click that, and you can actually give it a file name to save to a normal text file that you can open with Notepad, and then open that file up in Notepad and actually print it out. And I like to print it out and then take a highlighter and go down through and highlight all of the major hotkeys and mouse combinations that I need. And I staple them together, and I'll hang it beside my workstation. That way, if I forget something, I can grab it and look at it quickly. And after a while of doing it, you'll learn all the various hotkeys and stuff, and you won't even have to refer back to it. But until then, that's a quick tip for you that'll probably help out a lot. Alright, until next time, this is Storm. Have a great time. Thanks.